Hello, how are we all doing? We're live, and you can see I've learned a new trick now. I've learned to unmute myself since the last broadcast. So, how have you all been doing? It's been 3 months, and yeah, since Lyman and I were last broadcasting to you, just 3 months. So, 2020 is going really slowly. I don't know about you. What a year! And it's not over yet, folks. So, since the last time, we'll talk about a few things. We're going cask strength this evening, so very happy about that. We're going to talk about the launch of the 10 and the 25-year-old cask strength, and we have thrown in like a Friends Laphroaig Cartridge cask strength also to make up a perfect wee trio. So we'll taste 25-year-old cask strength first, then on to Cartridge Triplewood cask strength from 2019 and finish with batch 12 2020 10-year-old cask strength. Try and say that after 3 drams. So, but we want your interaction, we want your questions, we want your comments. The last time we were really inundated with questions and comments, and we want more of the same. We even did a follow-up session the last time to answer everyone, and we're trying to ask maybe 2 or 3 live on air at the end of each segment. So get your questions in, please. Comments. Where are you from? Where are you? Where are you tasting your Laphroaig this evening? Hope you made it through the hurdle that is Microsoft Teams as well. And I'm not talking to myself here. But don't worry, equally, as if you're a wee bit late to the party, it's being recorded and it will be on the website soon enough as well. So what's been happening here? We've been busy at the distillery since we last spoke, fixing breakdowns mainly. It's been the worst year ever for breakdowns. Even the plant hates 2020. I don't know what we've done, but we splashed some cash and we've got some shiny new piece of equipment put in place as well. So we've got a new cooling tower put in place, some new heat recovery tanks fitted to ensure that we can use less energy going forward, new malt conveyors, 3 new spirit stills and some other copper works in the still house, and the main pipe from our reservoir down to the distillery, right down into the mash house, is being replaced and upgraded as well. So lots going on, and it's all just about starting to work now too. So hopefully we have a positive end to the year on the production front. So another wee question now as well, just a few folks have asked why it is 615 SST. And you know what SSC stands for, right? Yep, Scottish Summertime. Yep, got it now. So that's right. So if you change 6:15 to the 24-hour clock, you get 18:15. And you know what happened in 18:15, I am sure. So that's why we're starting at 18:15, because that's when Laphroaig started. And again, sorry if the timeline doesn't suit, but it was getting recorded. And it will be available on laphroaig.com once the legal team have been through things and just made things better. It's what they do. Okay, so starting at 18:15, and just like Laphroaig at this point, Laphroaig would have been very, very simple at this point. It was a farm and it would have had their spare barley in the winter and they'd have made whiskey. It was just bartering purposes almost that they were producing whiskey for at this point. 2 brothers who had ventured over from the mainland, or the main island, to Islay in the 1770s and 1780s with their family. Donald and Alexander Johnson had started this up, and the taste, I guess, for this started to grow. So very simple, very kind of small production at this point, with the farm being the main, I guess, source of income, and the farm kept going up until the 1960s. So we plan to talk about timelines as well, kind of off Laphroaig all the way through, as well as taste the cask strength whiskies this evening. But I think now we're going to go from timelines to timeless, and we'll cross the Atlantic to my coast this evening. And this man is the most awarded single malt Scotch whisky ambassador ever, a man with more songs and toasts than the bard himself. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Mr. Simon Brooking.
Roll out the barrel, we'll have a barrel of fun. Roll out the barrel, We got the blues on the run. Zing, boom, terarel. Ring out a song of good cheer. Now's the time to roll the barrel, for the gang's all here. Ho, ho, ho! Hello, Kibberahoo there, John. How are you? The last Laphroaig line, you started me out in the bay, but this is where I really want to be. This is the Laphroaig drinker's fantasy. The belly of the beast. To be in a barrel at the warehouse at the distillery, at one with the wood and the whiskey. This barrel's feeling a wee bit empty and fresh, though. I'll need to do something about that. Well, for those of you who can't make it to Islay, which is pretty much everybody these days, the next best thing is cuddling up to a warming dram of cask strength from Laphroaig. Cask strength. What does that mean? Well, for us, these cask strength whiskies represent the raw power of Laphroaig in its primal youth at 10 years. In its deeply complex character shaped by decades in the cask at 25 years, and in the diverse flavours found in the Carchus range, where John and his team pushed the envelope, thinking outside the barrel. And as Laphroaig has stood silent and proud, a sentinel on the shores of Islay over 200 years, these cask strength whiskies represent triumph over adversity, a celebration of the human spirit. Cask strength, loosely defined as a whiskey that goes straight from the cask to the bottle with a minimal treatment. Uncut, no water added, no chill filtration, only barrier filtration to trap the pieces of the barrel, no colouring. Cask strength does not necessarily mean single barrel or single cask, though. It can be a marriage of casks, as we find with the whiskies we're talking about tasting tonight. There are some other strengths in the whiskey industry that are important to know as well. Distillate strength, that's the strength of the spirit as it comes off the still during the heart of the run. And at Laphroaig, that distillate strength is 68.5 to 69% ABV. Barrel strength is the strength of the spirit with deionized water added during the filling of the barrel. And barrel strength at Laphroaig is 63.6% ABV. Keep that number in mind for later on. And then there's bottling strength, which the standard strength of the whiskey at bottling. And the bottling strength, the majority of the world is at 40% ABV. Bottling strength North America is 43% ABV. Although there are more and more Laphroaigs being bottled at a higher ABV, such as quarter cask and Triplewood at 48% ABV. Now consider what adding water does to whiskey. Sugar more readily dissolves in water than alcohol, so a 50% ABV whiskey absorbs 2 times more sugar than a whiskey at 70% ABV. How do we taste cask strength whiskey? Why, vigorously and with conviction, of course. With that said, these are strong spirits and should be given the respect and attention they deserve. Please drink responsibly and always have a designated driver. So before we taste the whiskies, let's let the spirits out of the bottle and give them a wee bit of air. Now, if you're able to, pour 2 25 ml or 1 ounce samples of the whiskey you're tasting tonight. Go ahead, we'll do that. Now, nose them, add 1 to 2 drops of water to one of the samples, and then cover the glasses. Now, if you don't have the fancy glass tops, the tin top to your Laphroaig tube works just as well. Now, released from the vacuum of the bottle, this oxidation allows your whiskey to breathe again, the way they did while it was maturing in the cask. It takes 10 years to make our 10-year cask strength Laphroaig. We ask that you take more than 10 seconds to drink it. And we will enjoy the 10-year later during this broadcast. But what about our older cask strength whiskies? 25 years. What does age do to Laphroaig? Well, if the 25 years John Campbell just celebrated at Laphroaig is any indication, you're in for a treat. John, tell us what it's like for you and a barrel of whiskey to spend 25 years at Laphroaig.
Okay, Simon, we've got a couple of questions here as well. I'm just going to ask you first as well. So that Jack has asked, as a new Scotch whisky drinker, why would I want a 10-year-old Scotch over a 25-year-old Scotch?
Well, that's a good question, Jack. Whiskey, as we ages through the years, and you get different characters, different qualities. The younger whiskies are a little livelier, a little more robust, a little wilder. The older whiskies, because of time in the barrel, think of the shape of the barrel, rounding out the edges, knocking off some of those hard, sharp edges and softening it a wee bit. You're finding more of the influence of the wood on the whiskey as it goes longer in the cask. So it's really a matter of, as well as the time and place for the whiskey. As many people know, Islay is a wild and woolly island that faces the Atlantic, and many storms hit along the coast at the Laphroaig distillery. So you need something bigger and bolder to take the chill out of your bones. And so a younger whiskey might be more suitable for that than the older, less aggressive style of whiskey.
Okay, thanks, Simon. What else am I getting here as well? Like loads of highs from all over the world: Helsinki, Colombia, Belgium, Germany, South Africa, Hong Kong. Some people in Hawaii. That must be a really good breakfast. And lots of folks in the US saying hi as well from all over the US. So when can I order? How can I order whiskey, Simon? Thank you from Western KS. Sorry if I've said that wrong. Western
KS is that, yeah. Kansas? Is that, I would think?
Yep.
That I would check with your local retailer, your local liquor store owner, as to availability of these products.
Okay, we've got highs from India, Spain, people in Aberdeen, Alford, know that place well, used to go through that every day. More Aberdeen, lots of people watching it at work in the US. That's a good job you've got there. And just lots of highs right now. That's us, I think. So yeah, I'll start to talk about the 25-year-old cask strength now too. So, and I just think, Simon, you look so charming in that barrel there. I think you're definitely a toast for it. So, 25-year-old cask strength, been around since 2007, and we did a 40% ABV. Actually, it wasn't cask strength the first couple of bottlings. Did another 40% in 2008, and then we did a cask strength in 2008. Feedback being roundabout, probably since we had launched quarter cask in 2004, that people wanted a kind of higher strength, older whiskey as well. So people were generally going to try and get cask strength, non-chill filtered, non-coloured whiskies. So we gave our consumers that. 2009 there was a bottling. There wasn't in 2010, funnily enough. And then every year up until this year's 2020, we have released a bottling. Some only available in certain markets, like maybe there was one in 2011 specifically for Asia as well. And because it's such small vatings that we do of 25-year-old, there will only be 4,800 bottles of this produced for the whole planet, and so we will try and split that up and give certain markets different volumes, I guess, just to try and spread the Laphroaig love all around the world as best we can. It's something we're trying our best to do. So lots of different expressions. There was actually almost kind of, they're always roughly about the same strength, so roughly between 48. There was one in 2012 that was 46, and 2015 was 46, but generally they're between 48 and 51%. all the time. Simon explained well there to Jack's question about a 10-year-old cast strength and a 25-year-old cast strength, and I'll kind of say it's almost like Simon and I a wee bit as well. So if you'd see me as the 10-year cast strength, I'm a wee bit rough around the edges, maybe just more full of emotion, and just not quite in harmony as Simon yet. And Simon has had more summers in the bank, is rounded, fuller, and has more body. Well, actually less body now since he's heard that personal trainer. That's why everyone wants to marry Simon, but we'll come back to that later. And it's also been said to me by Barry, our assistant manager at Laphroaig, that he quoted to me the other day there, he said at 25 years old, he felt he was just starting to get his mind together, but that his body was falling apart. That's a true story, folks. It's a true story. Poor Barry. Okay, I'm going to talk about water and whiskey. I'm going to taste this whiskey eventually, but I'm going to talk about water and whiskey as well. Okay, and us Scots have this down to a fine art. Okay, the Scots are known for being thrifty. Okay, we're born with short arms and deep pockets. It's a curse. It's really a curse, but it's something we just have to put up with. So we don't want to waste good whiskey. So you may be scared to add water to your whiskey, just in case it ruins things. And I've got a cast strength 25-year-old here. This just doesn't cost a pound or two. So what are we going to do? So the way around this is to add whiskey to your water. Okay. So what you have to do, you have to get your glass of water and have your whiskey ready, and then pour some water into your mouth, add in the whiskey and mix. Okay, I'll demonstrate.
Did your dentist teach you that one there, John?
Every morning, Simon. You got to gargle in the morning, yeah. So what you do get though, no alcohol, just flavour. All the flavours coming through of this delicious whiskey. And the other thing is now, what happens is if you don't like that flavour, because what this will do, it'll really accentuate the flavours or how the flavours will change when you do add water to your whiskey. Okay, so if you didn't quite like that, you can go back to your glass and nothing's ruined. Thrifty, absolute thrifty. Okay, so what I have in my glass here is the 2019 25-year-old. This one is bottled at 51.4% alcohol. It's 100% ex-bourbon, and I'm going to try and just do this live. Cast strengths are generally a wee bit harder to get going, but here we go. So first flavour, pears, then peat, some herbal notes coming through as well. I find older Laphroaig, you start to get some of the floor maltings, kind of maltiness coming through, maybe like that. If you've ever been here, and hopefully you have, because especially in an evening like tonight, it's a gorgeous summer evening outside. When you go walk past the floor maltings, you don't even have to go in, you just have to be outside. You get this lovely, it's like it's a green banana smell coming through, and I'm getting small amounts of this in here. And then kind of moving, maybe nice floral tones as well. The floral notes are very consistent and very important in Laphroaig. And then you start to get some cask flavours. So a wee bit of going from that floral notes, it's like a strawberry toffee, and then maybe a little vegetal, little oily coming through at the end. Okay. So here's the toast. Here's to us, there's none like us. God damn the rest. Lovely, lovely. All of these tropical fruit notes coming through at first. It's coated the whole of my mouth with oils and flavours. What you'll also find with an older cast strength whiskey, or just an older whiskey, is you just get wave after wave after wave of flavour coming through. So I'm getting a lot of that green banana actually on my palate right now. and it's moving into like a peaty, oily, like a really creamy kind of licorice type flavour coming through. So that's 2019 and absolutely delicious. 2020, it's not actually out yet, but it's going through the waters across these right now. So I've managed to get a pre-production sample just because I can. So here we go. Pour some of the 2020. I'm going to do this off the bat again and see what we're getting. Take a wee drink of water first, clear my palate. Again, 100% bourbon. This one's 49.8% alcohol, so slightly less than 2019. Okay, completely different. That's great. That's absolutely fantastic. So, what am I getting? Mango first, and then I got apple strudel, and I'm not sure where that came from. It just smells like apple strudel. And then into vanilla pods. Right, okay, this one's lovely, kind of ashy, dry, peaty, and it's very tarry at the end. So lots of these kind of peat, kind of medicinal, toasty flavours. So here's a toast. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. With a year like 2020, a cask strength Laphroaig is a must. Slange.
I'll drink to that, John.
Cheers, Simon. Whoa. Wow. That's dry. And that toast was spot on. That is ashy and dusty. Got a subtle sweetness initially. And then bam, in comes these cask flavours, the kind of toasty, oaky, spicy kind of cask flavours. Lovely creamy, fruity finish coming now though. But it's unmistakably Laphroaig. So that's good. That's always good. I think you like that. I really do think you like that. Especially if you like dry. Not me. I don't like dry, but I'm not making whiskey for me. I'm making it for you guys. So hopefully you enjoy this. And I know fine a lot of people that do drink Laphroaig love a nice dry Laphroaig as well. Excuse me. Okay, so timelines as well now. So we're getting into 1839 on the clock where I am, and about this time, actually, there was two distilleries in the current Laphroaig site. We had Laphroaig, but we also had Ardinaston. It was based here, and it lasted for 25 years, from 1835 to 1860, before it actually joined up with Laphroaig. There was also a lot of family tensions to be resolved at this point as well, because older brother, when Donald had died, he was only survived by one son, and that was Dougal. But Dougal was only 11 years old, so he wasn't allowed to take over the running of the distillery. So what the family did, they leased out the distillery for a short period, up until Dougal became of age, and then basically Dougal started to run the distillery. And Dougal was, I guess, not a negotiator. He was a man with a distinct opinion, and it had to be followed. So he caused lots of tension, especially around water. And I'm sure, as you know, water supply is crucial. And so he absolutely made the Suirnig kind of burn, as it's called, or the Kilbride, from the Kilbride Reservoir, absolutely a priority for the distillery. And quite rightly so, because if we don't have water, we don't have whiskey. So Dougal really concentrated on that, and I guess that's his legacy, the water supply to the distillery. And then he kind of passed in 1877, and Sandy had joined, who was a relation but from the other side of the island. He was from Talent, which is between Bamore and Bridgend on Islay, so just kind of up the back there. So, and they had same Johnsons but different Johnsons, so they had kind of cousins. So he ran the distillery thereafter, because when Dougal passed, he had no children. So Sandy became the sole owner of the distillery. And what Sandy's legacy, I guess, was for Laphroaig was that he spent a lot of time on infrastructure to mature whiskey. So up until this point, most whiskey companies weren't maturing. It was more of a late kind of 1850s to 1900s phenomenon that he would start to mature whiskey, and so he started to build warehouses. And if you know the Laphroaig site, just right over along the kind of shoreline by the mash house, so we had warehouse 1, 2 and 3 built there, and that was Sandy's legacy, and he started spending time maturing whiskey in the site and getting the warehouses built. At this point, also a very famous whiskey writer and whiskey book was produced, and it was written by Alfred Barnard, and he visited the island in 1886. And at this point, Laphroaig actually had the smallest production capacity in the island. So this would change, obviously, in the 20th century. Okay, so that's a bit of the timeline. So hopefully a wee bit more of Laphroaig's history there as well as the 25-year-old cask strength 2020. Simon, do we have any more questions coming through? Can you see anything you want to ask?
Yes, John, a question from Bob about colouring. There is no colouring added to any of these whiskies. I'll answer that. But yes. Also, how do we decide on the batches?
Oh, good question. And it's really like a lot of the time with the 25-year-old cask strength, you're planning. Normally, since 2008, we have had a plan in place since we started it in 2005 when we were starting to get aged liquid at the distillery. So it's very hard with the cask strength 25-year-old. It started off as 40% ex-sherry casks and 60% bourbon. The last couple of bottlings have been 100% bourbon, and even I think we did one in 2017 that was 100% bourbon as well. So we're trying to manage such small amounts of liquid, 4,800 bottles. We are trying to manage it, and we're trying to give variation through casks, I would say, more in the 25-year-old cask strengths. I will talk about the variation in the 10-year-old cask strength later on in the broadcast, so I'll go into a lot of probably detail about that next up. So I'll not kind of I'll keep my powder dry on that one, I guess, Simon.
Very good. And we've been getting lots of greetings and welcomes from Canada as well. So we've got people from all over the world that are listening in, as well as with their favorite drams in hand, whatever time of the day. And that's also a good point as well. When in the morning your palate's best, it's fresher. You're able to delineate more flavors compared to later in the day when your palate's a little bit more tired.
Yeah, so, no, absolutely, and it's probably good that we're drinking cask strength Laphroaigs from my point of view as well, because that's like whenever I'm doing a tasting notes for a whiskey, it will always be first thing in the morning when you've had no food. So the more your palate just gets tired, well, my palate just gets tired as I go through the day. So first thing in the morning with no food in me is absolutely the time I will sit down and do tasting notes for whiskies. It's probably the time my palate is its most sensitive as well. So right, yep. Okay, well, thanks for the questions, folks. Keep them coming. We're here until 7:30, so lots of questions. And just also just before it is asked, because we got asked this in the last broadcast, Simon is still happily married, folks. That Sheila's a lucky girl. What can I say? And so let's go back and see the man everybody wants. Simon, over to you.
All right, I took care of my barrel there. I'm just doing a little bit of charring. And actually, that's one of the questions that came up was, do we treat the casks prior to filling? And for us, when we use the bourbon barrels, which are coming from the Maker's Mark distillery, they come over whole with a plastic bung in it, and we check for pressure to make sure there's no leakage, and then we fill right from there. There's no what's called decharring or recharring. But You'll notice now the barrel that I'm in has been charred, and it's that beautiful wood char that releases so much of the favorable components to of the influence of wood. So why oak? And I like to say oak strength. Now, oak is classed as a pure wood. There's no overpowering resinous characters, which will be imparted into the maturing spirit. Wide radial rays, and here you see here, I can see, there you go. I've got the amazing disappearing wood stave, but the wide radial rays in the structure give oak strength needed for the casks. And despite its strength, oak is easy to heat and bend, making that cask construction faster. Now, exposing the heat, the cell walls of the wood to heat treatment leads to changes in the physical structure of the wood that play an important part in the maturation cycle. Oh, I love that smell too. That's fantastic. Now, some distillers will attribute over 70% of the final distilled spirit flavor to the cask that is used in maturation. Now, Scotch, along with bourbon, Irish and Japanese whiskey employ oak casks, and in many cases, these have previously contained other spirits, wines, or fortified wines. The process of using new casks for bourbon is a practice that was adopted as a standard following the end of Prohibition. Now, interestingly enough, Ian Hunter at Laphroaig traveled to the United States during the first half of the 20th century and discovered bourbon barrels on his journey. It is why we primarily use bourbon casks at Laphroaig today. Bourbon casks highlight more spirit character, more smoke and peat. I'm going to show you a slide here that these are the three primary effects of oak. What are they? Well, they are additive, subtractive, and interactive. Now, in the additive, oak adds desirable elements to the whiskey, vanillins, oak lactones. Lactones are like the coconut notes, wood sugars, color, and toasted flavors. Now, the subtractive quality for us with the wood is it removes the less desirable flavors from newly made spirit. There's sulfuric notes like spent matches. There's butyric notes, baby sick and cheesy flavors. And these flavors are created during the production cycle. And finally, we've got interactive elements where it adds wood extracts that causes changes in the whiskey. Tannins, which give you color, flavor, maturity, also give you a dry mouthfeel. Those are changed to acetals, acetic acid, vinegars. Then that's changed to fruity esters during maturation. And then we've got the cask sizes themselves. The size, yes, ladies and gentlemen, size does matter. And in the smaller casks, you're going to get a faster maturation since the wood surface is interacting with a smaller volume of whiskey. Now, the butts that come from the sherry industry, while the majority of the other barrels and hogsheads are used in the production of bourbon. Double maturation, and that's something that you'll find in a whiskey like quarter cask, where it starts in the 200-liter bourbon and then we move it to the 125-liter bourbon cask. That's allowed, that's what we call a second maturation. That's considered a finish, which adds flavor to the spirit, and depending on the smaller barrels in the quarter cask, there's more of a velvety mouthfeel to the whiskey, and those come from the oils, those wood oils. And common finishes include sherry, cognac, port, Madeira, and many of the casks, those types of casks, are the kind that we've used through the years to create one of our fan favorites, limited bottlings, Carchus. Now, that brings us to our Carchus section. Now, as John was talking about bringing us into basically 1900 with Samuel Johnston there. At that point, there were really only 7 people working under his tutelage. But then a gentleman in 1908 by the name of Ian Hunter joins the distillery. and he had a profound effect on the distillery and on the exposure of Laphroaig globally. He traveled the world, and as I mentioned earlier, he traveled to Kentucky. And after Sandy Johnson passed it on to Ian Hunter, he expanded the distillery, expanded production, but also expanded the exposure by traveling the world and spreading the good word, spreading Carchus, spreading friendship. Well, what is Carchus? Carchus is a bottling that we've been doing since 2008. It was a bottling, that first bottling was a blend of quarter casks and sherry butts. It was 9-year-old quarter casks along with 17-year sherry butts. And there were 3,600 bottles that were produced. And that was a very small amount. That was for the world. Through the years, we have produced a range of casks with Carchus, utilizing port, which we're using a combination of with our new 2020 Carchus, which is a port and wine finish, as well as Amontillado. We've used Madeira, we've used Fino, and well, since this is a cask strength session, we're going to talk about the 2019 cask strength Carchus, which is the Triplewood Carchus. So, but a little bit of background on the Carchus 2020. It is a port and wine cask. It is our way saying tapalev, or thank you in the Gaelic language, to our fans through the years. This bottling is a combination of 7 years in a second fill port cask and 3 years in bourbon, and then another 5 years in a wine cask. And it is 85% port and 15% bourbon and wine. Beautiful whiskey bottled it's bottled at 52%. And I'm going to offer a toast with this Carchus. And it goes something like this. Here's to us, nae like us, God damn. And that translates to here's to us, there's nobody else like us, God damn the rest. Slange, cheers. Did I steal yours, John?
Slange, Simon. All good. Toasting with you there. I've got a question for you, Simon.
Yes.
Steve from Alaska has said, what gives Laphroaig the beautiful smoky taste, please?
Well, that would be the peat. Peat is our fuel source. It's not a person. It is our fuel source. Although there are peats that...
Yeah, we do have a peat too at Laphroaig, yeah.
Peat is our fuel source on the island that we use to heat our homes and cook with, but most importantly for us, for drying the barley. Peat is an organic decomposed vegetation, and there are peat bogs all over the world. The largest one's Finland, but in northern Germany and Denmark. Canada has huge tracts of peat, and it is utilized as a fuel source. We dry our barley over the peat fires, and it is what is drawn in to the barley before we then grind the barley down. We basically make a smoky beer, and then we distill it in our beautiful copper stills. So the Carchus 2020, lots of dates and apricot flavors. There's a salty aftertaste with a very creamy sign-off. As I'll sign off with this 2020 Carchus with a combination, since we're using port and French wine casks, this is a combination toast of Portuguese and French, and it goes like this: Saúde e Santé, which is good health to you in Portuguese and good health to you in French. Slange.
Slange.
Okay, now back to the cask strength. Triplewood Carchus 2019 Triplewood. This is a lovely whiskey. It's bottled at 59.5%, Now, Triplewood, what do we mean by that? Well, we start off in 200-liter bourbon, and then it goes into the quarter casks, which are bourbon casks, and then it goes into Oloroso sherry casks for up to 2 years. So now you've got those 3 layers of casks, those 3 layers of flavors, and then our standard bottling, we add water to bring it down to 48%, but in this case, we are bottling it at the 59.5% strength. Have a nose of that one there. Polished leather, tobacco leaves. There's a little bit of spicy lemon and a little bit of a cinnamon zest to this. The sweetness comes in the form of maybe a gentle syrup or honey, but there's also a wee bit of vanilla fudge, hazelnut, white pepper, and a little bit of nutmeg. All right, so let's have a toast. So here's the toast. Here's to those that need it the most. So far apart, we're together in toast. Blanche. Cheers. Immediately I get, there's a velvetyness to this. Those are the oils from the sherry casks. Toffee, dates, little maple syrupy, a little creme caramel, touch of marzipan, and it's finishing with a little bit of a cedar wood, maybe a touch of beeswax. This is a lovely whiskey. For those of you who enjoy the sherry casked whiskies, this is a great addition to your back bar there.
Yep. So got more questions as well,
Excellent.
Simon. So Carol from Newcastle asks, what makes Laphroaig so amazing?
Well, John Campbell is one of them, one of those things. But certainly the people at Laphroaig, and John knows that better than anybody else, the people who have been making the whiskey for 35, 40 years, as well as the new people bringing life and vitality. It's kind of like the difference, as you were saying before, the 10-year-old Laphroaig is more rambunctious versus the older Laphroaigs are more refined, and it just depends on the mood you're in.
Okay. Thanks, Simon. Lots of hellos and questions now. So,
John, I see a question about the Cartchus port that was produced initially, and this is we're a tip of the hat to that original port. Is the 2020 Cartchus utilizing the old port casks from that original bottling. So currently we are not doing a full port. What's available is the port and wine cask.
Yes, yep, that's correct. And there's I find it quite amusing, but John Brain has said, my wife has confiscated my aged 10 years. I was out for a long lunch with a mate, so I'm now tasting pure water. She's left me with the sleeve. No worries, I'll be back. Impossible. And keep the man. You can't keep a man from liquid heaven. So I'm guessing John's an Aussie. And good luck with that liquid lunch, John. So, yeah, there's just lots of questions. So, is it? There's questions here. Does Laphroaig 10 change? Laphroaig 10 taste change between production batches? How do you keep a similar brand taste when the barrels change? Brand taste, sorry, when the barrels change.
Well, that certainly, if you look at it through the years, generationally, there will be changes because the palate changes and culture changes, as well as there are changes that happen in production. The stills are there stills added on, or there's expansion. So but your job, and John, and I don't need to tell you, your job is not to screw it up. You're steering the ship, and you're at the helm there. So please keep producing Laphroaig the way it's been produced for the last 200 years. Although there have been variations through the years, and sometimes that has to do with the casks that are available and the quality of the casks. And there have been challenges at times, but certainly the recipe the 10-year recipe is the same almost 100 years now.
Yep. One more question. Hello from Canada. This is Candram Man. Has Laphroaig ever done anything with virgin oak or ex-rye casks?
Well, that would we haven't done with rye, but we have with virgin oak. If you look at the likes of some of our duty-free bottlings or QA cask, as well as Laphroaig Select, those employ, that's not 100% virgin oak, but we are using a percentage of virgin oak casks in those bottlings. So thanks for all those great questions. I'm going to turn it back to John. We're going from friendship with Carchus to foundation. So here's John to tell you all about 10-year cask strength.
Okay, thanks, Simon. Right, so 10-year cask strength started off in the mid-90s. Up until that point, we only had one whiskey, and that was 10-year-old Laphroaig. So we did a couple of things in the mid-90s. We released a 10-year cask strength and a 15-year-old. And this here, lucky enough to have this is the original cask, and it was straight from the wood. So if you ever see one of these in your store or hidden maybe somewhere and it's full of dust, buy it. Whatever you do, buy it. This is liquid history. We have 3 bottles at Laphroaig. One of the first things I did when I became the distiller was try to get some of our liquid history, because before that we had no liquid archive. We have an amazing paper archive. We've got documents going back to books to the 1700s, letters between the original Donald and Alexander Johnson, all the way back 200 years. We had no liquid history, so I've tried to build up that just basically right down below me downstairs, and kind of created a vault of Laphroaig expressions. So I've got a few bottles of this, of the first Laphroaig cask strength. This lasted about a decade. So in the middle of the noughties, we did another original cask strength, but this is a red stripe on it, and it was 55.7% alcohol. The green stripe one here was 57.3. And then we were keeping them up until 2008, where legislation then changed and we moved into batches as well. So smaller volumes, roughly about just over 100 casks in each batch. And so in February 2009, we started batch 1 of 10-year-old cask strength, and then we did batch 2, batch 3, where we're now on batch 12. There have been a few anomalies throughout the years though, and this is just because it's such small volume as well. When we do the batches, we all want them to taste differently. So we have, for example, had 2 batch 2s, 2 batch 3s, 2 batch 4s, and 2 batch 8s. Why, you might ask? Well, up until this point, there was a batch done for the distillery and for online at laphroaig.com, and then there'd be a batch done for the US. From basically 2017, what we have done, we've just done a batch, one batch. So the last time was we did, say, 2 batch 8s in 2016. So what we have done now, and what we are trying to do from 2017, just like the 25-year-old, as you'll have heard, we are now trying to, sorry, I'm just looking at this one. I've just pulled the plug off this one. I've not tasted this one yet either, so I can't wait to try it as well. But basically what we do now, we do one batch, produced, and what we will try and do, we'll try and spread the love around the world. So we are now, I think in 2017 we released batch 9 in the UK, small amounts. In batch 10 would have been Germany, and in Australia they got some of batch 11 as well. So we're trying now to push it around, so starting with our biggest markets first, and then if you can't get it there, try Laphroaig.com, and if you can't get it there, come to Islay, because we will have some here too. So that's your 3 options right now. And just on that point as well, we should have opened a few other markets up for online sales since the last 3 months as well. It's something we are building up, hoping to open our horizons further and spread the Laphroaig all around the world. Okay, so that's a bit of history of the 10-year-old cask strength. I want to talk now about like how do we do the batches, because I've got batch 12 here in front of me, and how do we choose the batches? It was a question earlier on, and about what does that do to the flavour of the liquid. So each year we will basically choose from a different part of a different warehouses, and just like each cask is different, each warehouse is different as well, and it can depend on the composition of that warehouse. So, for example, through the wall, warehouse 1, 3 foot thick walls, bigger, 3 foot thick walls, and so with that, slate roof, sarkin flooring, actually, it's like 1 inch thick roof. The temperature profile in warehouse 1 does not budge from winter to summer. Now, if you've walked up the footpath to Laphroaig, you'll have seen we've got remote warehouses as well. So we've got 5 warehouses up the road there. And because they're built from the 1960s on, it's basically brick and metal framework in there with steel sheeting on the outside. So these have a much bigger reaction to the outside temperature. So in the summer they get very, very hot, and in the winter they can get very, very cold. So the difference in temperature profile can be huge. So what that means is the stuff at the bottom of the warehouse and the stuff at the top of the warehouse, when they're matured, even if you put 2 barrels from the same filling next door to each other at the top and the bottom of the warehouse, you would produce different flavours just due to the climate differences in there as well. And then again, you go next door, you've got warehouse 7. They all produce this. They're like us. We're all made of the same kind of materials, but we're all different. We've all got our own differences, and we've got our own way of doing things. So each batch, what we'll try and do, we will get 1 load of casks, which is just over 100 barrels. We'll send them away, and this year's is, I know exactly where these are from. This is the strongest cask strength we've done, which Simon will talk to in a minute. Batch 12, it's 60.1. So this is from the top of warehouse 11. So at the top of a warehouse, you'll lose volume of liquid, but you won't lose alcohol. At the bottom of the warehouse, where it's cooler, you will lose alcohol strength, but it's because it's cooler, it's bringing in moisture, so it's diluting the alcohol content down and diluting the colour from the cask too. So I would expect even batch 12 to have high colour because it's been at the top of the warehouse, and that's why it has the high alcohol strength too. Okay, so and usually what we'll do with cask strength batches, and each one has been very different so far, which is fantastic. We'll just try and maybe even choose a different layer in the warehouse, just because it has a different maturation profile to show you, even though we're doing the same thing or the same liquid off the still, just the kind of, I guess, the cask and warehouse influence on the liquid. Okay. Are we getting any more questions, Simon? Anything?
John, yes, we were getting loads of questions, great questions. And I might point out, if we don't answer your question during this session, that we will be doing a follow-up session to answer all the questions. So please, we'll let you know when that session goes live again. Yes. One of the questions is in regards to different batches, different barrels, any experiments with different batches or barrels that don't run as planned. When
Yes.
Laphroaig goes bad, is there such a thing?
Oh, that's harsh. That's harsh. But yes, it does happen. Sometimes you just get liquids that butt heads, and we have tried Marsala wine casks at Laphroaig, and this is the one. It's probably the trouble is it's changed the Laphroaig flavour profile, and I think when you're tasting any Laphroaig, whether it be 25, whether it be a Carchus, whether it be 10-year-old cask strength, you expect Laphroaig flavours, the Marsala wine casks, to not work at all. They completely changed it. To me, it was like looking into a kaleidoscope. It was just like it just felt wrong. Just felt wrong. So Marsala wine just hasn't worked with Laphroaig. So that would be the obvious one that I can think of.
Right. We're getting a question from the cooks in Germany. Any chance you can let us know what you will taste in the next tasting so we can order in time?
Yes, I will set you up at the end to what we're going to try and do next, and kind of hopefully you guys can decide as well. So, yes.
Great. Well, so we're getting close to our official hour, but we are going an extra. We're going an extra 15 minutes.
Yes.
Because we could easily go a couple of hours with this, with all these great questions and great whiskies we have to talk about, and especially to taste. So
yes, no, absolutely, and it's brilliant. It is one thing about Laphroaig and being part of Laphroaig and friends of Laphroaig and the viewers tonight. It's just that we just get so much interaction, and it's fantastic, and we just really appreciate it. Okay, right. It's time to get your Valences out. We're going to head back and we're going to taste some cask strength whiskey. Head back to the barrel, Simon. How's things in there?
Oh, it's toasty and it's looking lovely in here, because now I've got some whiskies to help me through the night. I've got, and if you've got it at home, we've got the 10-year cask strength 2019, which is bottled at 58.6, and we've got the 10-year cask strength 2020, which, as John mentioned, is bottled at 60.1. And that's batch number 12. These have been sitting for a good length of time to let them open up, to aerate. We will do that when we're sampling the casks in the warehouses. So particularly the cask strength whiskies, you want to give them some time to open up. Really, that oxidation will bring out a lot of the flavors. And try it with water, without water, because all of these whiskies take water differently. And I'm going to start with the 2019, slightly burnt caramel on the nose, caramel custard. There's tarry notes on it. A little bit of Christmas cake. Compare this to the 2020. And this is just full power. And keep in mind that the 2020 at 63 points, when our barrel strength, when the whiskey's going into the barrel, it's going in at 63.6. This one is 60.1. So this is the closest thing you're going to get to getting it right out of the cask, just as it's gone in after aging. But it's going in clear, right? The color comes from the aging in the barrel. So look at that beautiful golden amber bead of the, and this one is a little bit lighter, but as John was saying, with that higher higher location in the warehouses, you're going to get more of that wood character. And now it's time with the nose on the 2020. It's a brackish mustard seed, clove, powerful medicine, smoke, seaweed, and ozone. Overlaying the sweetness there. All right, now it's time for a toast. And here, this we'll toast with the 2019, and it goes like this. What's for you, no go by you. Which basically is whatever will be, will be. Slanja, cheers, 2019.
Slanja, Simon.
Big and bold, but you know, with some time, it's opened up. It's more aromatic. It's got the muscle. It's got the salt and the sea and lots of vanillins from those bourbon casks that it's been aging in. But it's that classic, the Laphroaig 10-year. Wait for it, and there it is. It just opens up. It just blossoms. So that is our 10-year 2019. Now we've got something here in 2020 that you can raise your glass to, and that is the 2020 10-year cask strength. Not chill filtered. So here we do. Here's the toast, and it goes like this. For there's no foe like fear, and no friend like cheer, and sunshine will flash at our call. So let's crown love king, and let us all sing. It's a mighty good world after all. Mr. Robert Service, Slanja.
Slanja, Simon.
Fully enveloping, and as you're tasting, hold it in your mouth, give it a swirl. As we were saying earlier, it takes 10 years to make it. We're asking you to take more than 10 seconds to enjoy it. Now, if you find there's a lot of heat to it, which this is big, powerful, robust, go ahead and add some water to it. Just add a couple of drops of water, and like dew on a rose, it opens up the bouquet. Water is your friend. It comes from water. Whiskey comes, the Gaelic word ushkeveha, ushke meaning water and veha of life, shortened just to ushke, and then anglicized ushke became whiskey. So when you're ordering whiskey, you're actually ordering water in the Gaelic language. And I'll have to say, this is damn fine water right here, John Campbell. Slanja, cheers.
Cheers, Simon. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. You just have to find your level of what you like, because this is a big, powerful whiskey. So I've got some more questions for you. I've got CW here who says, I'd love to visit in 2022. How long should I plan to spend in Islay, in your opinion?
A lifetime.
How long you've got, CW?
You would not be the first who've come to Islay and fallen in love with the island and stayed. And in fact, the woman right behind you there, John, when we go back to the photo of John in the office, is Miss Bessie Williamson, who came to Islay on holiday, got a job, and then spent the rest of her life living and working at Laphroaig. It is a testament to the island. It is a testament to the people of the island. It is a testament to the distilleries on the island. It is a rich culture of heritage, of whiskey making heritage, as well as farming, agriculture, and fishing. John, you know yourself, coming from a fishing background, that it is a very beautiful place in the world, Islay. So definitely give yourself more than a day if you're coming to Islay. Give yourself a good 5 days for you to be able to see all of the distilleries as well as some of the other attractions.
Yep. Oh. Okay. Lots of people from all over the world, lots from Turkey, US, Virginia.
Hey, John, we did get a question earlier about some folks who are friends of Laphroaig and have their square foot of land. And when they were coming, what should we call them? Should we call them Duke and Duchess, or Lord and Lady? King and Queen, if you want to be. It's really up to you.
King and queen of a square foot of Isla. Yep, sounds good. That's what I would go for. Yep.
Yeah.
What? Right. Okay. Question from David Frost. What's your favourite expression of Laphroaig and why?
I would ask, well, who's buying?
Yep.
No, seriously. And for us to be tasting the 10-year cask strength is very reminiscent of one of my favorites, which is the 10-year. And it's the one that I can, as I travel about the world, or as I used to travel about the world, that I would find everywhere. It's a testament to the distillery and the work that's being done. When you look at total staff at distillery, 17 people of operational, it's a small, handcrafted spirit. And a lot of people don't realize that. Seeing it all over the world, there's a lot of hard work that goes into making this whiskey. The dedication and the craft and the skill of yourself, John, and the people around you, the team that you have, as well as the visitor center when people come to visit, make it a first-class destination not to be missed.
Yep, I would agree with that. The BC team do an amazing job here as well. So another question from Peter, is the 25-year-old aged in the same barrels the entire time, or does the whiskey get moved to different barrels during the maturation process?
Well, that depends on the year of the bottling, because, for example, the last two years, 2019, 2020, are all in bourbon casks. Versus prior to that, we were using a combination of bourbon and sherry casks. So those are aging side by side, and then we marry. We have some other expressions where we move from one cask to the other. For those that are familiar with the 30 year, not the Ian Hunter, but the 30 year, the 27, the 28 was a combination of barrels that moved from one to the next. And using a combination of casks. So depends on the bottling, depends on the year.
Okay, one more question, and it's from Anonymous. So I'm a wee bit skeptical already. I love Laphroaig, but only in our short winter. How do I enjoy it the other 9-month hot summer?
Well, I would recommend trying it as, dare I say it, a cocktail. Yes, I said it, Laphroaig cocktails. Actually, not necessarily a cocktail per se, not one of those fancy cocktails, but say a Laphroaig highball with the addition of club soda to your whiskey. It actually, and you want a high effervescent club soda, it opens up the flavors. So try it with a little bit of club soda added to it, or if you want, 3 parts club soda and 1 part Laphroaig. And if you've got hot summer months, it allows you, if you have it on ice, it gives you a way to rehydrate, keep you cool, and enjoy your Laphroaig during those warmer summer times.
Yep, I would agree with that. Or you could just sit in the fridge and enjoy your Laphroaig. I think you've got to find a way, I feel. So, yeah, thanks very much for these questions again. And wow, time just goes past so fast in these tastings. So, lots of other welcomes coming in from California. How do you pronounce Carchus?
You just did it.
Yes.
Carchus.
Carchus.
It's a gorgeous Carchus.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Right. So just about coming to the end, I guess now, folks, and so we will kind of, I guess I should do a wee sales pitch as well. So the 10 cask strength and the Carchus port and wine casks from our last tasting are still available on Laphroaig.com. And actually, we couldn't have done a very good job the last time out, but really, you can't do anything just now. So what else are you going to spend your money on? Treat yourself. You're worth it. You're worth it. 25-year-old cask strength is heading across the waters as we speak and should be available very soon as well. We are thinking of coming back again for part 3. This was a sequel this evening. We're now back for part 3 in October time and have another live broadcast, and we should have Ian Hunter batch 2 to talk about. We will be releasing that then. Equally, what would you like to see on here? We want your opinions, so opinions welcome is definitely a slogan of Laphroaig. We want your interaction. What would you like to see us taste or talk about on these live broadcasts? We want your opinions in that as well. Okay,
John.
Yes.
I would also ask, you know, in these challenging times, we are also, it's been struggle for us to be able to get out and meet with people.
Yes.
If you, as friends of Laphroaig, have an idea for us to be able to do a virtual tasting or a tasting that works within the boundaries of the restrictions of the pandemic, how can we send us your ideas? We would love to hear from you because you send us the best ideas for our whiskies, and we look forward to be able to join you as soon as we can, whenever we can do it the proper way, the safe way.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I would absolutely echo that, Simon, as well. And it's just we've come into the end now. If we haven't answered your question, we will go through them and answer them at some point very soon. Just one other thing, totally not on topic. I would just like to raise a glass to Sir Sean Connery, can't even say it right, who was 90 yesterday. And I'm just thinking he must be the most iconic living Scotsman, apart from Mr. Simon Brooking, alive right now. So here's to you, Sean. Happy 90th birthday.
Cheers, John. Can I raise a glass and a toast, and I'll finish
Yes.
off my portion. If we could go back to thank you very much. So given our request and what we're asking to, we miss all of you, and so I'll finish off my portion with this. We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. Thank you to everybody out there. John, thank you for your amazing whiskey. We miss you all, but please, when you're enjoying your Laphroaig, think of us the way we think of you. You are in our hearts and in our prayers. Cheers. Slàinte. Back to you, John.
Slàinte, Simon. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, just sorry, I'm getting caught up with the questions there as well. And so there's it's such a, can't thank you enough. It's just brilliant, the interaction we do get on these things, and some point very soon we will get back to you as well. So more thanks just now. Just like to say thanks to the production team, Fiona, Riley, Andrew and Simon. Cheers, thanks very much. To the happily married Simon Brooking, what an amazing talent and resource we have here. He represents Laphroaig with such a passion and such craft. Thanks so much, Simon. You're amazing, one of a kind. And then also like to just raise a glass to you, viewers and friends of Laphroaig. This is what it's all about, and I would absolutely echo Simon's sentiments there. It's just, this is the only way just now. We usually see so many of you as we travel around and get to see you face to face, but this is the only way right now. But we'll try and make the most of it, and before you know it, we will be back clinking glasses together in very soon, very soon. So you've come in, you've dived at the deep end, and as you've seen with a cask strength Laphroaig, the water is lovely. So just like to send you off and just basically good health, never more important, and slàinte. Sláinte goodbye. That batch 12 is lovely as well. So enjoy your evening and thanks very much, folks.